Crush your enemies.
They drew first blood, not me.
See them driven before you.
Oh, my user.
And hear the lamentation of your women.
But I pity the fool.
Glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Phone home.
They're here.
Oh, real light sleeper, child.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing The House Where Evil Dwells, released May 14th, 1982. It was written by Robert Suhosky, based on the novel by James Hardiman, directed by Kevin Connor, and released by MGM/UA Entertainment Company. James Hardiman was still in the process of writing the book when screenwriter Robert A. Suhosky, his business partner at a PR firm, suggested the story might be better suited to the big screen. Avco Embassy were already interested in adapting the unproven author's first book, but the rights to adapt were acquired first by producer Martin B. Cohen before it was even published. In fact, it never was, which might make this our first film adapted from an unpublished novel.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if, not that this is Oscar worthy, but like, do you put that in the adapted screenplay if it was never a published work?
I would definitely nominate this for an Oscar if that's what you're asking.
That's not what I'm asking at all.
In my experience with the Oscars is that it's
Whatever they want it to
whatever
be.
they want.
Yeah, it's pretty random, it seems like.
Yeah, Django gets best original screenplay, even though you had the original Django actor
it's the
in
fifth
the
Django
film.
movie, yeah. Cohen was able to secure funding from his own Cambridge Film Group Limited and the Japanese production house, the Toei Company, as an international co-production. The contributors would each put up half of the film's expected $4 million budget, and as part of the deal, the central cast would be played by American and British actors, with exclusively Japanese actors for all supporting roles. Filming began in Kyoto, Japan, August of 1981. The production made use of a camera prism and high-speed film stock to capture the film ghost's translucent figures.
Wait, a camera prism?
Yes. It's kind of like a lens that you put on the camera that has a 45-degree angle sheet of glass within it to reflect the image that it's capturing off of a second stage.
Okay, so it's
place
actually
off camera,
on
right.
the camera itself. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That seems like that would take less setup time than what I was picturing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not installing a full plexiglass wall in the middle of every
literally
set.
how I was imagining this working. I'm like, man, these setups must take forever.
Right. We've discussed the process before, commonly known as a Pepper's ghost illusion, which makes use of a model lit against a black background and then reflected into the camera by an angled pane of glass. It's the same effect famously utilized in Disney's Haunted Mansion attraction. Speaking of haunted mansions, the house in the film was based on an actual haunted thatched roof home in Kyoto, and the Japanese crew even insisted on the hiring of a Japanese priest to perform the Shinto equivalent of an exorcism on set to protect the production from unwanted occult forces, whatever they may be.
Wait, did you say it's based on an actual haunted house?
Yes.
How are we defining that it's actually haunted?
3 or more ghosts.
But this is a set, right?
This is a set, yes.
So,
but it was based on an existing house in Kyoto.
But the set isn't haunted, is it?
I haven't inspected it very thoroughly, Richard.
Or was there concern that they've recreated the house so authentically that the ghosts would get confused?
They're spiritual people, you know?
Now, that's an interesting story. It's like a 13 Ghosts kind of thing. Like you recreate like an environment so authentically that the ghosts get confused and you use it to capture them.
There you go. That's probably how those ghost traps work. They're just miniature. They like 3D printed the house that they're ghost busting inside of it.
I looked at the trap, Ray.
The production wrapped dramatically ahead of schedule and under budget, needing only 36 of the 90 scheduled shoot days and spending only $2.8 million of the allotted $4 million budget.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
I feel like I've literally never heard that before.
Yeah, that's like almost a third of the production schedule.
And you're just like, yeah, I'm just not going to spend all this money we have.
Yeah.
We don't need it.
Producer Cohen has asserted that the film would have cost more than twice that to shoot in America. The shoot was not without problems, however. Working outside the studio system often means making sacrifices of comfort. They often had insufficient access to working restrooms, transportation, and even basic seating options. While working in Japan meant the filmmakers could bypass many of the complications presented by unions back home, the language barrier, even with competent translators, caused persistent issues. Producer Cohen quickly gleaned that any instructions he provided on set through female translators were disregarded by the mostly male Japanese crew, and so he was forced to replace them with male translators.
Like, legit, that is a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Director Kevin Connor has complained that producers recut the film and stripped it of all its interpersonal depth. At the end of its theatrical run, on a nearly $3 million budget, the film made less than $1 million back, and this would consequently be Martin B. Cohen's final film producing.
That's such a shame, considering they were even under budget. Like, I thought it would at least make its money back.
Right?
It's not bad.
It's pretty slick looking,
I
and
think
honestly,
it's fine.
the transfer that survives for this
beautiful.
Blu-ray looks great.
It's amazing. Honestly, this is so much better than most of the movies we've watched this year.
We open picture in Kushiyada, Kyoto, Japan, 1840. We see a man taking a walking path and carrying a paper lantern in one hand. He pauses suspiciously at the door to a home and looks around before sneaking inside. A woman inside seems to have been waiting for him, and they close themselves together in a back room to enjoy some tea. The man removes his sandals, and the woman arranges them facing away from the building just outside.
Okay, I immediately knew that this was like a gentleman caller.
Right.
I was like, why would you leave the shoes? That's the first evidence that somebody's there.
Right.
I mean, granted, it doesn't end up being the evidence because they're just a giant silhouette in the window.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's other mistakes they make for sure. The woman presents the man with a small ivory figurine of a devil and a woman tangled up in the act of lovemaking. We'll learn this is called a netsuke. From outside the home, we can see the pristine silhouettes of these seemingly forbidden lovers. The man sits and continues drinking tea while the woman plays him a song on the koto, which is one of those huge stringed instruments we often see played in Japan by a musician kneeling on the floor. Back out on the road, a second man traverses the same path up to the house. As he gets closer, he finds sandals that aren't his at the edge of his property. Coming around the side of his home, he sees plainly the silhouette of his cheating wife and her lover making out inside. His wife removes her kimono to bare her breasts to this other man. Honestly, though, something's up with these silhouettes. I think they might be puppets. They look too narrow in places, and the movements seem very unnatural. I wonder if they just couldn't get practical shadows to show up cleanly, so they did paper figures or something.
they Home Aloned it.
Yeah. This is Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan has a great rack.
He does, though. Also, good free throw. When the husband sees the man lean in to take his wife's breast in his mouth and then lean her back to the floor, he loses his mind. He unsheaths his katana and lets out a violent, terrifying hiss of a growl. He fully shreds the wall with his blade on his way into the room, catching his wife and her boyfriend by complete surprise. He chases them back and forth around the room, swinging his katana willy-nilly. The homewrecker blocks a swing by throwing a serving table in the air, and the husband chops it down to the floor. We see the ivory fuck figurine tumble to the floor. Eventually, the husband lands a brutal blow, cleaving the homewrecker's right arm from his shoulder without cutting the sleeve at all. It's pretty impressive.
The arm's
That's
just,
how sharp it is.
Yeah.
and the arm just
You
like
can cut through skin without cutting through the
flies.
fabric around the skin. The next swing cuts the man down his side again, and the next is a piercing stab directly into the man's crotch. The wife sobs to see her lover so viciously slaughtered. Then comes the final swing, which takes the man's head fully off his body. It bounces comically off the wall and lands conveniently in the wife's lap. The enraged husband slashes at his wife a few more times to silence her screaming, and when she dies, he tosses her koto instrument through a paper wall into the yard, and then kneels in the center of the room to commit seppuku, the famed suicidal Japanese ceremony that was becoming more widely known thanks to its depiction in James Clavell's novel Shogun and its subsequent 1980 miniseries adaptation.
Though Western audiences often refer to it as harikari.
Yeah, it's called harikari in the film, but they do
seppuku,
mean the same thing.
Yeah, seppuku is the general.
What's harikari though?
It's the same thing. It's just
Okay.
like a more. If you were in Japan, you would say seppuku, but harikari is also like known, but it's more of a westernized word for it.
Okay.
Which is why that's what the character in the film uses, because it's a co-production mostly in English. Although I believe the actual act of seppuku requires more cutting than what we see here. It looks like this is just a single stab, where technically seppuku would involve dragging the blade sideways across the chest to fully disembowel oneself. We get a few wide shots of the crime scene aftermath: bodies, katanas, wall splinters, bloodstains, and a severed head. Suddenly, a strong wind kicks up outside and blows dirt and leaves into the home. The ivory Netsuke figurine is blown down a crack between sections of the wall's multi-level flooring. We jump now 142 years into the future to the present of Kyoto, 1982. Doug McClure as Alex Curtis from the U.S. consulate is dropped off by a driver at the airport and heads inside to greet his arriving American acquaintance Ted Fletcher, played by Edward Albert, his wife Laura, played by Susan George, and their young daughter Amy. Moving through the airport lobby, Alex is briefly distracted by some sort of blaring Japanese game show playing on a television inside. I couldn't confirm it anywhere, but it reminded me a lot of a short-lived TV series that I had PA'd on called Super Big Product Fun Show. It was from the same crew as Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, but instead of contestants in obstacle courses, they would rewrite variety show segments as parodies of infomercials. I think I recognize one of these hosts from the shows that we sourced footage from for that show, but I can't be sure because I couldn't find what the show's called. Alex eventually breaks free of the TV's trance and welcomes his friends to Japan. He addresses their daughter in Japanese, and then she asks him to translate.
What'd you say?
I said, welcome, dear Amy, in Japanese. Want me to teach you Japanese?
Sure.
Sounds useful.
Yeah. They waste no time at all establishing that Alex is a bachelor, and he considers Laura to be quite the catch. Alex, as I said, seems to be working for the American consulate, but Ted is, I guess, just a writer? I don't know if it's travelogues or fiction.
Well, because he's also a photographer.
Right.
And so I don't know if he writes like travel logs or...
I assume he writes articles to accompany his own photography, yeah.
But he seems freelance because we see him trying to court business people later.
But he also has some kind of a connection to the American consulate. Is this like, does he work in cooperation with the government for some of his writing? Because it seems like Alex is something of a coworker in addition to being a friend.
Well, and he and his wife both have prior knowledge of Japanese culture.
Right, yeah.
And so, like, I get the feeling that this isn't their first time
here
in Japan.
Maybe, yeah. The most we get is Alex referring to Ted's work as research, but we don't dig into the details. I think they just wanted to vaguely remind us of Jack Torrance.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
very shining-y.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, do you remember the last time a three-family couple came into a house that was haunted?
Yeah.
So the husband could write a story.
Yeah, and they were all isolated from the world they know. It turns out in advance of their arrival, and even without informing them, Alex has rented a house for them to live in. Ted had expressed a desire to stay in a somewhat traditional family home, and Alex managed to locate a 200-year-old thatch roof place on a hillside at a discount rate of only 47,000 yen a month, which is the equivalent at the time of $250 on account of the place being allegedly haunted, but they couldn't care less.
Haunted by what?
Don't worry about it, honey. Modern ghosts are friendly ghosts. Sounds perfect, Alex.
These aren't modern ghosts.
I said it's 200 years old, this house.
140-year-old ghosts.
That's if they were born the day they died. They're actually
no,
closer to 180-year-old ghosts.
Well, no, but they've only been ghosts for 140 years.
Yeah, but they're 180
in
years
ghost
old.
years.
In ghost years, right? I forgot. You subtract the life years for ghost years.
Yeah, it's like it's like a premature baby. Like you don't start actually measuring the date that they're born until.
The cab navigates a long and winding road through the mountains to the property.
I was getting like major like Spirited Away
sure,
vibes,
yeah.
like the whole like just traveling to the new home that's far off in the country.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot that reminds me. We were talking just as they pulled up to the house that I was like, oh, it reminds me of the Ponyo house, and you said it was like...
The exterior reminded me of the Totoro house, where they find all those like little spider sprite things. As they walk in, Alex teaches little Amy that here in Japan, shoes are always removed at the threshold. Inside each room of the house seems to be a full step up or down from the neighboring rooms, and every doorway requires Ted to duck to pass through it. Despite the traditional home request, Alex has commissioned some Western updates, including a full kitchen and a typical American toilet. The construction team that has done all this work is actually still here and stops to chat about the changes on their way out.
Now, there's a couple of really interesting shots in that they're not. It's not one continuous shot, but I noted 3 very long takes.
Yeah.
Like each lasting about a minute. Handheld, walking with them through the house.
Into the house, yeah.
And so there's like 3 cuts, but they are very long, walking around, people moving in and out of the scene and things like that. It was like, this is pretty good.
That's how you finish 90 shoot days in 36 days.
Yeah, exactly.
To thank Alex for finding them such a beautiful home, Laura circles back to kiss the man on the lips, just as he begins distributing bags of housewarming gifts to the family. Ted unwraps a box with a ceremonial katana, Laura gets a few books, and Amy never even opens hers here. Alex pours them each a cup of sake, except for Amy, and when he ultimately stands to leave, he thinks he knocked one off the coffee table by mistake. but in an insert, we can clearly see it hop from the table of its own volition.
I wish they wouldn't have put that insert in there.
Yeah.
I think it would have been more interesting just to have the cup fall off the table in the shot.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I must have knocked it over, but...
And if you back it up, you can see that he didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Let me see.
I'm usually not that clumsy. Don't worry about it. No, it's all right. Must have been one of those ghosts we were talking about.
That night, we see Laura struggling to assemble a bed on the floor in the master bedroom when her electric lantern keeps turning itself off. After a couple tries, she calls out for Ted's help, but I don't know what she's expecting of him. It only has one button, and you pushed it already. If it's broken, just get a different light source, and if there isn't one, do this in the dark. It's a bed. You just have to lay a blanket down. She has all the problem-solving skills of a kindergartner, and she goes on like this for the rest of the movie. Upon hearing his name called, Ted and Amy both come running as though the house were on fire. She tells them the lamp keeps turning itself off, and he basically says, okay, and turns it back on, and it stays on.
It's like, it's probably a bad switch. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yep.
'Cause
I know that. I did that already.
It's probably just a defective switch, honey, or the plug's loose or something.
Oh, no.
They laugh and fall together in a hug to the floor. In the middle of the night, we see them huddled up together, but Ted is still awake. He seems disturbed by something and watches the shadows of branches tossing in the wind, silhouetted on the paper walls of the house. Soon we see a trio of ghosts, the love triangle from the film's Cold Open, standing in a row in the hall, peering through the open sliding door at the sleeping husband and wife. Ted stares back at them in the darkness for a moment and reaches over his head to flick on the light. We get a reverse angle from his perspective as the three in the doorway linger for a half second in the light and then vanish out of sight. Most of this footage with the translucent ghost people is being shot all in camera. This isn't composites where they shoot one scene and they shoot the other scene and they overlap them. Most of it is happening live.
Well, I mean, honestly, I was thinking about this. I'm like, if I was a producer in the early 80s and I read this, I'd be like, I can't do this. There's no way we could do this.
Right.
Also, maybe we could do this, but not for this budget.
Right.
But this is like brilliantly simple and, in fact, not just efficient, but it looks like probably better than an optical would have.
It does look really good. I was very impressed with the visuals here, especially because since they're doing it in camera and they're doing it live, they can have these cast members overlap each other and they can do it exactly. They don't have to worry about how people are lined up because they can make the adjustments in camera like as they're doing it.
Well, and you get a much more convincing translucent and like ethereal effect if you reach for them, because the actor is reaching for nothing, but we're seeing it as a reflection, but they would just appear to go through it. You wouldn't get like weird matte lines or things like that because it's just all in camera trickery.
It's perfect. Ted leaps to his feet to check the hall himself, and Laura is startled by his sudden movement.
Yeah. So I was surprised that she woke up.
Yeah.
Because usually this would be one of those scenes where the partner never wakes up and doesn't see it.
Yeah.
But the moment he gets out of bed, she's like, bah!
Yeah.
And
she's freaking out.
And my note is like, I'm a real light sleeper, child. But also, at this point, when I see the ghosts in the doorway, I was immediately confused because I'm like, why would the ghosts be there together?
Yeah, are they on the same team now?
Like, because
they've had 140 years to talk it out.
I guess because we will get kind of an answer later, but I might not know having the information I had later. It was just like, you guys shouldn't be hanging out together.
Yeah, but how many years are you going to spend fighting the other ghost samurai in the house?
You got to make the most of it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd feel like I feel like that would be more interesting. Like that they just keep fighting each other
forever.
In the house.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing
just
all the
collateral
disturbances.
damage.
Yeah.
After a moment, they flick the lights back off and resume cuddling. They wake again hours later for a prolonged and entirely unnecessary but likely contractually obligated sex scene. The next morning, we see Ted shaving in the bathroom when he hears someone calling to him from outside. He wipes his face clean and steps outside to find a local monk waiting on his porch. Somehow, Ted recognizes the man on site as a monk.
Can I do anything for you, Father?
He seems well-versed in Japanese culture, and it's possible he made the inference based on the man's outfit, known as a rakusu, typically worn by Zen Buddhists. He explains he's a monk from the local temple, and he knows this property's history. He's had disturbing visions of it lately.
It is a pity you have chosen this house as your home. If you need me in the future, please come to the temple.
So this always begs the question. You are a monk, and you are perfectly aware that there is a horrible haunted house. Why do you allow the house to continue to exist? I would burn that mother down and just say, there you go.
Well, then you just have loose ghosts.
That's true.
You just can't keep a haunted house there forever. Like, it's like,
has he been warning people out of this house for 140 years?
Or just recently? Like,
yeah.
Just like, you don't buy this house. It's
and so they keep bringing the price down until they're willing to ignore what the neighbor said about the murders. Ted assures the man it won't be necessary, and the monk says he'll be waiting anyway. Back inside, Laura seems to hear a moaning sound from beneath the floorboards. She reaches blindly into a crack in the floor and retrieves the Netsuke of the woman and demon mating. She wipes the leaves and spiderwebs from the figurine and inspects it closely. As she does, the soundtrack's mystical chiming suggests magic, or worse, a curse at work. One at a time, we see Laura in the bedroom, Ted in the den, and even Alex in his own office, staring blankly into the middle distance as if simultaneously entranced by something. When Ted finds her in the bathroom later, she presents her discovery.
It's a Netsuke.
What's that?
Ivory carving they used to hang from their belts.
It's special, isn't it?
Depends. This one looks pretty old.
You don't like it.
Looks old.
I'm gonna keep it.
Elsewhere in the house, we see the trio of Japanese force ghosts eavesdropping on the conversation around the corner despite seeming invisible to the living most of the time. Now we get a shot of Ted and Laura facing each other discussing the house, and behind them, the ghost trio step out to fill the doorframe. The ghost woman steps forward and lines herself up perfectly overlapping Laura before disappearing from our view. Closer on her face now, we see Laura taking on an uncharacteristically calm voice to ask about their friend Alex.
Doesn't it seem strange to you that Alex never married?
Nah. Just hard to please.
I don't think I'd find him hard to please.
We hold for a moment on Ted's confused face, and then the men's ghost faces in the door before the ghost woman steps back out of Laura, having successfully puppeteered the comment out of her. Laura is instantly mortified, somehow remembering having made the comment, but clueless as to why.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that. I really don't. It was an awful thing to say.
Don't worry about it. Don't give it a second thought.
Honestly, I feel like his reaction is pretty weird here, too. For him to just be like, oh, don't worry about it. You just said you'd fuck my friend. Don't worry about it. And it's like, what? What do you mean, don't worry about it? Why would she say that?
Well, because he's secure in his masculinity and their relationship. Like,
would you be if she just said, I'd fuck the shit out of your friend? It's like, okay, cool.
It's kind of hot.
Great. Do it. I mean, what?
So I feel like this is the first time we're indicating that they can do this. And I'm a little bit confused as we go on about the rules of how they have influence over these people.
Have you ever seen Hearts and Souls?
Yeah.
100% Hearts and Souls rules.
So she remembers everything that happens.
Yep.
But she doesn't.
She can't control it. She's like locked in.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's how it appears here. I don't feel like it appears that way for all of them throughout the rest of the movie.
No, I think that they play fast and loose with their own rules.
Yeah. And also, like, upon possessing the woman, the ghost has a complete knowledge of English.
Yeah. And their whole background.
She
has access to all the information in the brain.
Correct.
That night, the family go to a local ceremonial parade, rocking full-on kimonos. Ted follows his wife and daughter around with a 35mm camera and takes photos of them and other performers in the parade. He spots a woman in the crowd who looks disturbingly like the woman ghost in his house, to the point that he does a double take while photographing her. He practically empties his camera roll on her. At home the next morning, Amy is watching JAKQ Blitzkrieg Squad, aka Jaka Dengakitai, a sort of Power Rangers precursor series, which is funny because her father Ted here goes on to play an important part in the actual Power Rangers franchise.
Is that true?
Yeah, he's the father of the Red Ranger on the Time Force Rangers.
I never watched any Power Rangers.
Neither did I. The phone rings, and when Laura answers, it's Alex looking for Ted.
No. He's in Tokyo for the afternoon.
Oh? I'm sorry I missed it.
He's calling to invite them both to a reception at the U.S. consulate, and she graciously accepts the invite on his behalf. During a pause in their chat, the gal ghost overlaps Laura again to derail another conversation.
I like also like the setup that's involved in this as far as filmmaking.
Yeah.
That they have to have
an identical couch.
And a seat for her to sit in and have the angles just right, the camera locked down, and for the ghost to be able to like to sit down because she scooches.
Right.
So it's like the whatever she's sitting on is the same length, and for her to like scooch over into position.
Right. And earlier when they were stepping out into the doorway of the bathroom, obviously that means they had to have another room that was the same depth with a doorway in the same place so that the three of them would appear in the doorway and it would look like they were appearing in a different doorway.
Yeah.
Because it all lines up perfectly.
Yeah, and they're partially obscured if they're outside.
Laura asks Alex when she'll see him next and makes him promise not to keep her waiting with increasing desperation.
Well, don't let it be too long.
No, I won't. Have Ted call me.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
I said don't let it be too long.
Do you guys recall the last time we heard someone say don't let it be too long? Hint, she technically sang it.
Pennies from Heaven?
No.
Don't let it be too long till the man of my dreams comes along. Let him be handsome, let him be strong, but don't let him be too long.
Just the Gigolo.
Oh.
It's one of Silly's songs. At the end of the chat, the ghost vacates Laura's consciousness and she gets another case of the post-ghost clarity, realizing how flirty she just sounded on the phone with Alex. Later, we see Ted picking up his processed photos and specifically inspecting the rapid-fire photos he took of the mysterious woman at the parade. In each frame, the girl that was dead center in his viewfinder is gone, and all he sees is an out-of-focus crowd that were standing behind her that night.
Who goes straight into slide form?
I don't know, this guy.
Yeah.
I just I feel like you'd at least get negatives, then look at the negatives, and then choose which ones you want slides, or at least do prints and then choose which ones you want slides.
This guy didn't even look at anything. He was just like straight to slides.
Yeah,
all slides.
Yeah, it seems like he would have a proof sheet. Like if he's a professional, he would have like a proof sheet.
Yeah.
And he would do the thing where
I'm surprised he's taking it to like a 24-hour photo instead of doing this at his house. If he's a professional photographer, like the guy from Cat People had a dark room. Hours later, we see the family seated around the dinner table, but Ted isn't eating. He's preoccupied with his work, and Laura seems a bit annoyed by it. He assures her he'd rather not be working, but he's still buried in assignments. Laura mentions Alex's call about the upcoming party, and while she relays the info, the woman ghost appears again behind the dinner table. Laura tells Ted she'd rather not go, probably because she's still embarrassed about the call today, but she refrains from mentioning those details to Ted. When Ted presses her on the issue, the ghost interrupts the fight by swatting a bowl off the kitchen table up into the air. Naturally, they blame Amy for the flying bowl, but she denies responsibility. Later, we see Laura and Ted dressed for the party after all. Laura leaves a note for someone named Rita, who will be watching Amy here tonight, and when she sets it down, she's briefly hypnotized again by the Netsuke on her desk, as she decides to bring it along to the party in her purse. As they enter the crowded party, we can see them talking to each other, but the lines are strangely muted. It seems like we're close enough to them that we should hear what they're saying here, but we don't. And there's no subtitles. They spot Alex across the floor and he rushes to join them. Laura seems semi-possessed.
Do you think she's possessed here?
Yeah, because she brought the Netsuke. It took her over
Is that
again.
all it's okay?
Yes.
Because that's the thing that I have trouble with throughout this film is like sometimes she's horrified by her actions, and sometimes she does things that I think are in line with things she'd be horrified with, but the woman didn't enter her.
Right. I think literally the only reason we don't see the woman enter her here is because there's too many people in this room, and it would have been too hard to coordinate one of those split screen shots where we have her step into the character. So all we get is like a mysterious chiming on the soundtrack, and she's got the Netsuke and her eyes go all wide.
Yeah.
So it seems like here she's like sort of half possessed at least. And Alex leans in to kiss her on the lips again as though nothing were strange about their phone call before. He even guides her with a hand on her back across the party to a drink station to fix her a beverage. Laura hands Ted a glass of champagne, and immediately Alex points out a nearby Japanese businessman in glasses who owns 4 magazines. It would be wise for Ted to network with this man for future work. Alex promises to take good care of Laura while Ted schmoozes the man. As soon as they're dancing together, Alex asks what the phone call was about, and without skipping a beat, Laura demands Alex take her outside now.
What?
I said take me outside.
After verifying Ted is distracted with the magazine owner, Alex leads Laura out the door and along a dark garden path until they find a place far enough out of sight to make out and then lay down together in the dark. Later that evening, Ted seems to leave the party with a pack of Japanese businessmen to a club called Members Super, where they take a table in the corner and each of the men is provided with a young Japanese woman as an escort. Hours later, they all seem very intoxicated and the escorts drag them to the dance floor, but when he actually gets there, Ted is made dizzy by the spinning and the room suddenly fogs over, at which point his escort is traded out for the girl he photographed at the parade. He asks her name and she calls herself Otami. He begs her not to disappear again, but even as he says the words, Otami changes back into the girl who dragged him to the dance floor. Ted argues a bit with the businessmen about his escort trading places with a mystery woman, but they seem to think he's just been overserved and it's time to take him home. We cut right to a wide shot of the house and the classic Japanese exterior ambiance of cicadas chirping. Inside, we see Laura preparing to do dishes in another kimono, but the faucet is aligned over the divider between the two halves of the sink, so when she turns it on, it splashes back at her. She cranks the handle to turn the water off, but the second she turns around, we get an insert of the handles spinning on their own to splash her again. Laura is weirdly panicked about it, as if the water were boiling, and she screams as she turns it off again.
Oh! Stop! God, please!
I also feel like I'd give the faucet a little push.
Yeah,
a little
just nudge it over so that when
it's not spraying you.
Yeah, it'll be going into the sink.
Yeah.
That'd be good. She's so distraught, in fact, that she goes to wake up Ted to complain about her barely splashed kimono and the malfunctioning sink. Again, I don't understand the urgency to communicate this malfunction. It stayed off the second time. You are barely wet. Call a plumber, I guess?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Her complaints sound like the ravings of a madwoman.
Wake up, please. Look at me. Look at me. Look, I turn the water on. It doesn't come on. Then it comes on all by itself, and it covers me. Just like the light. You remember the light? It's the same thing.
Do you really think these are related at all? If you haven't already decided ghosts are doing it? Why would a broken lamp have anything to do with unexpected water pressure in your kitchen? Suddenly her tone is accusatory and she asks where he went all night.
You know where I was last night? I was with the magazine editors.
Oh. Well, I hope you had a real good time.
She'd be even madder if she knew he spent almost 3 minutes dancing with a woman while she was busy fucking his friend in the consulate garden. He assures her he did not have fun and is consequently hungover, so she shouts abrasively to her daughter to invite her shopping for the day.
Amy, we're going out.
As he continues sleeping, the ghost of Otami kneels beside Ted and pats his face to wake him up. He's shocked when her ghostly image persists for longer than a second, but every time he reaches for her, she fades away, and he crashes into the walls behind her. When he doesn't learn his lesson, she reappears with the men ghosts behind him, and we jump to Laura and Amy out shopping. They somehow end up at the dealer of what are called no masks, N-O-H, which are those traditional caricature face masks of classical Japanese theater. The salesman says they're carved from wood, and even Amy can tell this is an irresponsible waste of their money.
They look beautiful in our living room.
Daddy would be a little bit mad, don't you think?
Think he would?
And then she disregards the warning.
I would like to buy.
Well, I don't think she disregards the warning. I think she's like, oh, yeah.
Let's piss him off.
Yeah, exactly.
Back at home, Ted is Jack Torrancing at his typewriter when the two male ghosts enter his office through the door behind him. The husband ghost somehow collects the ghost of a sword from a nearby stand.
Ghost of a sword.
And then stabs it into Ted's desk, somehow transforming the spirit blade into a corporeal one. Ted is obviously terrified and decides to go for a walk to clear his mind. I'd be like, where the fuck did this sword come from?
Yeah.
This sword did not exist before, and now it does.
Yeah. I think that it's supposed to be one of the swords that's in the room.
And he just picked it up, and they didn't have a way for him to interact with a real
Correct.
prop.
I think it was supposed to be real the whole time, and they just couldn't do that.
That makes more sense, because you can definitely see through it when he takes it off the rack.
Yeah, for sure.
But at this point, I'm like, okay.
Someone's trying to murder me.
So something is happening.
I'm not going to be like, whew, I'm going to get some steps in.
This isn't like a light turning on or off or water spraying. This is a force that is just happened.
He doesn't mention to her at all.
Yeah.
A sword almost decapitated me at my desk, and she's like,
but I got wet.
Well, there was water. I guess it dried already. It took me 8 steps to get to you, so.
But, again, referencing The Shining, we don't know how much he might be possessed because it's clear that this force is affecting all of them.
Right, yes.
And so it's possible.
Or at least 2 of the 3 of them so far.
Yeah. It's possible, much like The Shining, when Jack Torrance goes into that hotel room, and then Shelley Long asks what happened, and he's like, "There was nothing in there."
Yeah,
like he's just like, "Nah."
Is he protecting her, or does he not remember?
Yeah, but again, I'll have better information later. But at this point, I'm still like, I'm not really sure what the ghosts are trying to do.
Right.
Like it's like, do they want to get them out of the house?
I had an idea after the first possession tactic that what they're trying to do is the same thing that they were trying to do when they were alive, which is the lady ghost wants to fuck the boyfriend ghost, and the husband ghost doesn't want that to happen. And they can't do it as ghosts.
Yeah.
Because as we all know from the film title, ghosts can't do it.
But that comes back around to, why are they working together to achieve this goal? Like, why
achieve an orgasm?
Maybe they don't have a choice about it. Maybe they have to reenact the sins of their past.
Maybe. Ted is obviously terrified and decides to go for a walk to clear his mind. He walks down to the Zen Buddhist monk at the temple down the road. The man shares the details of the heinous murder committed in their home nearly a century and a half ago.
There was a young girl named Otami who tired of her samurai husband, Shugoro, and fell in love with a student of her husband. His name was Masanori.
He describes the events of the cold open we've already seen, and then anachronistically jumps back in time further to needlessly explain how Otami lured Masanori into their home. Apparently she visited a witch named Majyo. Just outside the witch's home, we see a wind-powered mill grinding human bones, mostly skulls, into powder, and a tiny little Conan just pushing it in circles. Otami finds the woman inside meditating before 100 lit candles. A cat in the witch's arms meows consistently throughout the scene. Without a word between them, the witch turns to face her and holds out a hand with the sexy Netsuke figurine. When Otami reaches for it, the elderly witch pulls it back and laughs in her face for a bit. For whatever reason, none of these Japanese words are translated by subtitles, but I think we are to understand that this magic Netsuke talisman will cast a sort of love spell on Masanori and summon him to her. The witch must ask a price Otami isn't willing to pay, because instead she tries to wrestle the Netsuke from her hands. And failing that, she whips out a blade to stab the witch and then run off with the Netsuke. Presumably the witch responded to this action with the curse that binds her soul to the house centuries later. Eventually, Laura and Amy return from shopping with bags overloaded with wooden masks they for sure didn't need. Laura pours Ted a drink while he unwraps her merchandise. Unwrapping them, he's able to identify Magojiro, Okina, Hanya the Demon, and finally Tengu the Devil, which he also claims isn't technically a no mask. When he learns she spent more than an entire month's rent on these 4 masks, he's obviously upset about the excessive spending, and she defensively compares it to the money he spent taking Japanese businessmen out for late-night meals. He tries to communicate that an investment in future employment is worth more to them than 4 wooden masks.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong at all. It's weird that he has to explain this.
That's business!
Right. It's Japanese business.
Yeah, it's Japanese business. It's how we live. It's how we make money. It's business.
It is the American way. Sam. Oh, it is the Japanese way.
He apologizes for yelling at her, and then she sits beside him and asks if they can just stop arguing since they love each other. How about, when we can't pay utilities because I blew all our savings on masks, you just say, "That's neat. Good job." The family sit down that evening for dinner together, and staring down into her soup bowl, Amy is disturbed to find the transparent ghost face of Masanori floating in it. Amusingly, she first asks what kind of soup it is, as though any answer could possibly explain the face. She seems to suffer a silent panic attack and is on the verge of tears before she can even explain the issue.
There's an awful face in my soup.
Come on, eat your soup for Daddy.
No!
While Dad inspects the soup, the husband ghost, Shugoro, walks up to the table and takes over Ted's body. Laura offers to make a replacement meal, but Ted/Shugoro won't have it.
Eat your soup.
I can't!
Yes, you can. When I say eat your soup, you eat your soup. Eat it. Come on.
In retaliation for Ted's overreaction, Laura overreacts 5 times harder.
What are you doing? Are you crazy?
Wow, what he's doing might be choking and drowning their daughter.
Yeah, drowning her in face soup.
Yeah, but pouring soup down the lungs of your child is a bad plan.
Is it? Maybe.
I don't think she's overreacting at all.
No. Am I wrong? No, the children are wrong.
You also don't know how hot this soup is.
That's true. Amy runs to a tree in the yard to vomit up all the face soup, and Ted just collapses at the table when the ghost vacates his body. The next day, Laura doesn't even wake until afternoon. Luckily, Amy doesn't remember, or claims not to remember, that Ted attacked her with face soup yesterday.
Well, yeah, and Ted was still sleeping beside Laura.
Right,
like,
so they both slept into the afternoon?
But also, if I was Laura, I'd be like, no, you ain't sleeping in here.
Yeah.
You sleep outside.
Yeah. I want you to pour soup down my gullet while I'm asleep.
Fix the sink.
Today, Ted is going to take photographs in a place called Pearl Island, and he invites Laura and Amy along, but Laura says they'll be fine staying here till he gets back. Instead, once Ted is gone, Laura pawns Amy off on an acquaintance named Noriko so she can have the house to herself. Or herself and someone else. Another mystical chiming sound coaxes her to the phone. We jump cut right to Alex, already in the house with her, and they make out fully nude on the floor. Out at Pearl Island, Ted boards a ferry into the bay and prepares to photograph a team of pearl divers. A man on the boat mentions that long ago these women would have done this work topless. While he takes photos, an extra woman surfaces between the others, and she appears to be topless like the man described. It's clear to us that this is Otami again, and Ted spends another entire roll of film taking photos that will surely not capture her image.
To be fair, it's not clear to me that that's her. It's only clear to me because of his reaction, because she's wearing like a mask that makes her look exactly like everyone else.
Yeah, but she has a very particular shape to her face. It's kind of like rounded, like she has like a rounded forehead.
Yeah, they're still all wearing big old masks.
Yeah. In his enthusiasm, Ted falls overboard taking the photos, and from underwater we see Otami grab onto Ted's legs to pull him deeper and deeper underwater while the other pearl diver women try to drag him up toward the surface. We jump to the house that night, and Laura gets a call that Ted is in the hospital recovering from his accident today. She assures Amy that Dad is fine and recovering before leaving for the hospital and leaving Amy in Noriko's care again. That evening, as Amy and Noriko are sleeping, the house is inexplicably swarmed with hundreds of tiny crabs and a handful of enormous 3-foot-wide crabs that speak with Japanese voices. It's weirdly reminiscent of that South Park bit.
Crab people, they're just like crabs, talk like people.
I was talking about this movie with my niece.
Yeah.
And I said, I haven't watched the trailer for the next movie, so I put it on while we were watching together, and I literally screamed when when it just did a hard cut to one of the crabs crawling across the floor really fast. I just went, because it was like, I don't like
Super
that.
terrifying.
I do not like, because they're
like robotic.
Yeah, they're like robotic
crabs.
But they're very arachnid looking.
Yeah.
Like they're not like spider crabs, but but just like the way the sudden cut to it and then them skittering across the floor freaked me out.
There's a few legitimately scary things here. I think the crabs could actually be really creepy.
Yeah.
And I think that the woman playing the witch does an excellent job.
Yeah.
Oh, she's great.
Like the laugh is great, and just her countenance and her creepy stare and her face and everything, it just works really well together.
Well, and her name is a play on the word witch. I think she's like credited as Majyo, and Maho is witch in Japanese. So it's like witchy witch.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, like the whole crab. When I saw it in the film, it was a little bit less
because they're not moving as fast in the film.
Yeah. And they're very, then it's clear like, yeah, these are like puppets being pulled across the floor. But yeah, that first time I saw them flipped me out.
Noriko runs screaming from the house, and Amy is left alone in the room. The crabs chase her out into the yard and up a tree. But when they start making their way up the trunk of the tree, Amy slips and falls out of it.
And see, to me, also, they should have been coconut crabs.
Because those would climb the tree.
Because they will climb a tree,
Right. Yeah.
and those are much more terrifying.
Because they're way bigger.
I thought they were coconut crabs these were huge though.
They are huge. I mean, it's literally like 3 feet wide when it's walking in the room.
But coconut crabs have like the one really big arm.
Yeah.
And these were more like, I was trying to figure out what kind of crab they were, because Wikipedia, I think, said they were spider crabs, but that's definitely not spider crabs.
Yeah.
I also think they're not actual real crabs, so there's probably isn't necessarily a species.
Yeah.
I feel like they invented these things and put them on literally a remote control.
They're modeled after the famed Robo Crab. Just as Laura arrives home from the hospital with Ted, they spot police cars outside and can't get an answer from Noriko as to what's happened. Both parents scream at the police for answers, and when Ted runs inside, one of the cops manages to communicate to Laura that Amy was taken to the hospital, presumably the same hospital they just got home from.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you actually passed her. Remember when you saw that ambulance covered in girl blood? That was your daughter.
Crabs.
And crabs actively climbing around on the outside of the ambulance. The crabulence, if you will. And I will. We cut right to Ted and Laura sitting beside Amy's hospital bed. Moments later, Alex arrives to join them and even kisses Laura on the back of her head. Amy looks unconscious, but Laura says doctors have assured them that Amy will be fine. We cut a full week forward in time and she's still not home.
Well, you say she's still not home. I thought she was dead. Like, I rewound this like 2 or 3 times and I'm like, I am not clear if she's just still at the hospital or dead, because she says Amy's been gone a week.
Yeah.
And I was like she died last week, or she's just been in the hospital.
I mean, I feel like they would have said something to indicate that she was dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, though. She doesn't really specify. She just says she's been gone. She doesn't say what she means by that.
Right. And then when she proceeds to talk about other stuff, she uses just terms like us and we. And I'm just like the 2 of you or like the 3 of you?
Yeah, what's going on here? Ted is typing away at his keyboard and Laura sits in the den reading when the Tengu mask spontaneously leaps from the wall to land beside her. She informs Ted what's just happened, but it's been clear each time she reports these occurrences that Ted not only doesn't believe a word of it, but he couldn't care less if it were true.
Even though he had recently a katana sliced through his
stab
desk.
into his desk. But it's like, yeah, a mask could fall off of where you hung it on a wall.
Maybe,
yeah, a faucet could splash you. A light could turn off.
And I'm like, not much you can do about the lights of the faucet, but get the swords and the masks out of the house.
Maybe ask for like a partial refund from the mask place.
Yeah.
Since you fucking hate these things anyway, and you spent a whole month's rent on them.
And again, I don't get how this succeeds in the ghost's goals.
It's just to freak them out, cause problems.
Because again, to me, this is counter to what the ghosts want.
Yes.
In the end, it's like they're trying to scare them out of the house, but that's not what they want.
Right.
They don't want them out of the house. They want all of them together in the house.
Yeah. But maybe it's more important to them that Ted and Laura hate each other.
That could be. Yeah, that's a good point.
Ted even suggests she start packing and promises to leave as soon as he finishes his article. Laura doesn't think Ted will ever finish writing and demands to leave with their daughter immediately.
I hate this house. I hate the things in it. And I hate this goddamn mask.
Well, I hate this house, too. And I hate the things in it, and if you want to see how I feel about the mask, watch this.
He scoops it off the table and sets it down on a heavy wood shelf before taking several swings with his housewarming katana. Laura seems panicked immediately, and with each swing at the mask, it affects her physically. Once Ted realizes she's collapsed, he sets the sword down and kneels to help her, but she shakes off his assistance and begs him not to touch her. He informs her they're overdue to visit the monk and inquire about solutions to their problem.
I don't really understand why she's physically tied to the mask, though.
I don't really either. We don't really go into that again.
Yeah.
He tucks Laura in on the couch and heads back to the temple alone to report what's happened.
Tell me everything. Omit no details, no matter how small.
At home, Laura is suddenly inspired to call Alex again and inform him that what's happened between them has to stop. Alex is confused by the change of heart, but Laura insists she still loves her husband and what they had is over. He's still trying to change her mind when she hangs up on him, and almost immediately, all 3 ghosts appear to haunt her back into her extramarital affair. The whole point of this was to reenact what they'd done in their real lives, and she's fucking it all up. After swinging their swords for a bit and screaming in Japanese, they eventually disappear. The monk tells Ted that the ghosts were condemned to the house by their karma. He also adds a strange detail that Amy is apparently also possessed now.
Your daughter did see her face in the bowl. When she drank, she swallowed the soul of the gaki.
Which must be a combined word for the 3 spirits, because he says the Kaki will now take their terrible revenge on him.
But it doesn't remain because we've already seen the ghost since then.
Right. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't seem like she's ever possessed by them.
No.
Back at home, Ted explains that the monk has agreed to help them exorcise the home. The monk waves a stack of prayers at a shrine in the house, and the ghosts are summoned by it. The monk moves around the house, chanting and waving his hand, which forces the ghosts out of the home. He assures Ted that the house is clean, and that if the ghosts are still outside, they'll be destroyed by the morning sun. He advises them to keep every door closed overnight and to not let anyone inside. Ted tries to share with Laura the good news, and she chooses this moment to dramatically admit to having cheated on him.
You can't touch me. You can't touch me. It's not okay. I've had an affair with Alec.
And then right on cue,
Laura! Ted! Ted, it's me, Alex!
the one who fucked your wife. Ted?
There's a weird sticker on your door. It says not to come in, but...
Ted storms furious to the door and throws it open to invite Alex inside. As soon as he does, the cocky swarm in behind him.
Yeah, I like that they like whoa.
It's like when you're trying to keep a cat outside.
Yeah.
Ted launches a full-on assault with several hard punches, and Alex does a fair bit of punching back. When Laura tries to interrupt, Ted throws her to the couch, hurting her face. Laura begs the men to stop fighting until she's possessed again by Otami. Soon after, Ted and Alex are possessed by Shugoro and Masanori respectively, and their punch fight turns into an expert martial arts sparring. Alex snatches a sword off a shelf to fight back against Ted, and under Otami's spell, Laura delivers the housewarming katana to her husband to make the fight fair again.
But that doesn't make sense because...
She should be rooting for the boyfriend, not
exactly.
the husband. I agree. I do like that the mustaches are consistent, though. The husband has a mustache in both trios, and the clean-shaven man is the boyfriend in both trios. The two men cross blades over and over, but Ted eventually gets the upper hand and relieves Alex of his sword and then his head by swinging both blades in a scissoring motion to slice it clean off his neck. For our third film with multiple decapitations in a row after death screams in Conan the Barbarian. Laura stumbles toward Ted in shock until she seems to have impaled herself on one of the katanas before collapsing to the floor. And then, just as in the past, Ted sits down to commit seppuku and complete the reenactment once and for all. Though Ted at least seems to actually disembowel himself, because we see him drag the sword sideways. Wider, we see the ghosts rise from the vessels they'd possessed and rush out of the house into the night. We see the Netsuke under a tree in the yard, and credits roll over another sudden breeze filling the house with leaves like it did in the past. The end. That's the house where evil dwells. I don't know if you guys had a chance, but I requested that maybe you bring a sequel pitch tonight. Did either of you come up with a sequel to this?
I'll let Richard go first on that one because I definitely did the assignment and didn't
forget it.
Forget it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, the obvious choice is the daughter returns
right
years later and ultimately is caught up in a similar situation because that's what seems to be the need for these ghosts is to reenact something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I would say, like, you know, she comes back to revisit now grown up with a husband or boyfriend of her own, like coming like to revisit where her parents died and just getting caught up in the same situation. It's kind of lazy, but I feel like that's what the house is demanding. I would probably have a happier ending for a sequel. Like they're able to destroy the Netsuke and set her parents free.
Okay.
Without like any death, but I figure at least the boyfriend like the alternate guy, one of them has to die,
right?
For sure
sense,
in this haunted movie, one of them has to die.
Wait, so are there 6 ghosts in your movie or just the 3?
Just the ghosts of her parents.
Okay.
The original ghosts
were
leave
set
the house
free
at the end.
because they succeeded in their mission of getting somebody else to take their place.
Yeah, hearts and souls rules.
So
they've completed their earthly task and they left.
So we do that, except it's not the daughter. It's just another random Japanese family. So now we just ethnicity swap
so it's
back.
American ghosts.
American ghosts
in a Kyoto home.
Yes.
Haunting a Kyoto family.
Truly terrifying.
I like that. See, my version of it is like full on sitcom. The daughter comes home and it's like a reverse Brady Bunch where she has 2 sets of parents, 2 sets of ghost parents that she lives in the house with, the American and Japanese
it's like the
trio.
end of Beetlejuice.
Exactly.
And
and she's just, she's just Sonora-ing up the stairs.
Stairs. So stairs in this house.
Well, they would, the whole house is stairs, kind of, because every room is offset.
It's one stair.
Yeah. You can go upstairs, just means
really
2
lame
rooms that way.
You want to come on the tour with us? Are there any stairs? Just one. Nuts to you.
Just one? That doesn't count as stairs. That's funny. But yeah, I thought this was fun. I thought the effects looked pretty good, especially for the budget.
Yeah.
Obviously they only needed like one location, so that's pretty cheap too.
And I feel though So it's like, we came in way under budget. Yeah, but you probably could have done more.
Yeah.
Like, you could have made...
Maybe spend another $1 million and have a slightly cooler scene somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like because I have questions, obviously. Like, it's a haunting, so it's just like, why does Otami get to appear outside of the house? And only Otami?
Does she?
She appears 2 times outside of the house. Once at the carnival, and then once in the pearl
diving.
Pearl diving.
That's right. But she's like in a human form.
Yeah.
It's like not in ghost form.
Yeah. So why does she get to do that? Like, what is her special power that gives her that?
Or maybe she's not actually appearing. It's
I don't even think
head.
she's there. I think that's something she planted in his brain.
Okay.
But that's not happening with the men.
Mm-hmm. And I would have liked more with the witch.
Yes, I agree.
I feel like the witch doing something to the house, like maybe carving something into the house like that they didn't see, like leaving it under, just doing really hammering home that she has cursed them. Because again, we don't know what she was saying.
Yeah, I honestly think that was literally just a mistake that they never translate those subtitles.
Because I turned on the subs.
Yeah, and there's nothing for that part.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the witch is a weird addition to the story. As much as I like the look and feel of that character, I wasn't curious how this woman found another guy that would come to the house.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was necessary to involve magic for that. I think it makes just as much sense that it's like a terrible thing happened here and our ghosts are then like trapped in the house because of the traumatic exit that we took. So I didn't think that the Netsuke and a witch's curse was even necessary, which is why it's weird for the monk to tell the story of the whole murder first and then to say, by the way, these two met through the Netsuke dating app where you basically curse like a figurine.
But also, like, I don't understand, like, we don't really know why Otami felt like her husband for sure won't come back tonight.
Right, like, she seemed pretty confident.
Doesn't this dude have a house somewhere?
Unless she really wanted to get killed that night.
Yeah. It's not like with Alex and Ted, it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely like out.
Usually he doesn't clock out at the Samurai Factory until 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I have no fucking idea. A clock.
Yeah, I thought that was strange because it's already late at night when he arrives.
Yeah.
And so he arrived shortly after, also late at night with also with a lantern.
Right.
Yeah,
and leaves his shoes outside.
Yeah, I didn't quite get how the timing of all this. It was like you just should have met out in the woods or something.
Yeah.
That would have been safer. But I liked it. I feel like it's hard when you get a movie like this because when you've had so many other movies recently that are just like, these are terrible. And like, this was very great. This is so watchable.
Yeah.
It kind of skews your view a bit.
Does.
I mean, I am going to give this a thumbs up.
Oh, yeah, it's a thumbs up.
Yeah, it's a thumbs up from me, too.
But I agree. I think I probably liked it way more than I should have just because everything else has been so terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But this one was pretty good all around.
What are we thinking Letterboxd on this one?
So I have it at 23 out of 74. It is above The Beast Within, but below Evil Speak, which really kind of, I feel like it fits right in that row.
Sure, yeah.
I have it at 35, which puts it below Death Valley, but above Lady Chatterley's Lover.
I have it in 41, which is just under The Chosen and just above Death Valley. Our director here was Kevin Connor. Before this, he had directed The Land That Time Forgot, At Earth's Core, and The People That Time Forgot. So far on the show, we've covered his work on Motel Hell, and we've also watched his TV movie, Goliath Awaits in Our Free Time.
Man, you know what? Now that you say that, I realize, oh man, it's definitely the same director.
Yeah.
Like, it just has that kind of feel.
Vibe.
After this, he moves to mostly television work, including Moonlighting, Hotel, and ending with what looks like a string of direct-to-streaming rom-coms. The adaptation and writing came from Robert Suhosky. This is his only screenplay credit. And the novel credit goes to James Hardiman, even though the book was never actually published. The composer here was Ken Thorne. He won an Oscar for his 1967 score to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. He also scored Inspector Clouseau, the Alan Arkin Pink Panther movie. And so far on the show, Juggernaut, Wolf Lake, and Superman 2. Later he scores Superman 3 and The Evil That Men Do. The cinematographer here was Jacques Haitkin. So far on the show, he's lit The Private Eyes and Galaxy of Terror. Later, he lights A Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2, Cherry 2000, Shocker, Mom and Dad Save the World, Bloodsport 2, and Wishmaster.
And, and good for him because of all the extra setup.
Right.
To get all these kind of camera movements, lighting.
Yeah, you're lighting two sets at once, basically. The editor here is Barry Peters. He previously cut At the Earth's Core and The People That Time Forgot for director Connor, and they continued collaborating from there on titles I didn't recognize. Edward Albert played Ted Fletcher. He shows up before this in Butterflies Are Free, Midway, The Greek Tycoon, and so far on the show in When Time Ran Out, Butterfly, and Galaxy of Terror. After this, he's Quisto Champion or Keisto Champion in 22 episodes of Yellow Rose, 18 Falcon Crests, 11 Beauty and the Beasts, 76 Port Charleses, and perhaps his best-known role as Mr. Collins, the father of the Time Force Red Ranger, and villain character in multiple iterations of the Power Rangers TV series.
And forever the person who confuses me when I think it's going to be Eddie Albert.
Yes. Susan George played Laura Fletcher. Before this, she was Amy in Straw Dogs. She's the titular Dirty Mary in Dirty Mary Crazy Larry, and she's Gabriella in Tintorera Killer Shark. So far on the show, we've seen her in Enter the Ninja, which also features a few scenes that take place in Japan, and Venom, and then she's back again this season for Kiss My Grits. 2 years later, she marries actor Simon McCorkindale, who we've seen in Juggernaut, Cabo Blanco, and most recently as the worthless Lord Micah in Albert Pune's The Sword and the Sorcerer. Doug McClure played Alex Curtis. I wanted to start by crediting listener Steven Sperling for informing me when we last discussed Doug McClure that he and Troy Donahue are the B-movie actors chosen to combine into Phil Hartman's Troy McClure character.
I mean, that's what I thought the first time I saw that name.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Before this, he'd appeared in Shenandoah, Bo Guest, and previously for director Connor in The Land That Time Forgot, At Earth's Core, and The People That Time Forgot, and Warlords of the Deep, making this their fifth and final feature film collaboration. So far on the show, we've seen McClure in just Humanoids from the Deep. Later, he shows up in a single episode of Manimal, starring Susan George's future husband, McCorkindale. Later, McClure is the Slapper in Cannonball Run 2, Sid Tager in Tapeheads, and perhaps most famously as Kyle X. Applegate in 87 episodes of Out of This World. Amy Barrett played Amy Fletcher. She is the daughter here. This is her third of 4 films, credited as Amy in Caged Heat, Amy in Humanoids from the Deep, also with McClure, and Amy again here. Her only non-Amy character is her next and last role as Mrs. Keys in Woody Allen's 1990 film Alice. Mako Hattori played Otami. She's previously credited as Akiko in Youth Part 2, despite her introducing credit. Shunji Sasaki played Shugoro. He previously appeared as Nishitani Hideo in Kinji Fukasaku's Battles Without Honor and Humanity. He's Lam Bak Jung in The Street Fighter, Inspector Ihara in Return of the Street Fighter, and Yokomitsu in Street Fighter's Last Revenge. So he's in all 3 of those films in that series. He also has credits in Go-Go 13, Assignment Kowloon, Fukasaku's Message from Space, and after this in Fukasaku's stuntman comedy Fall Guy. Toshiya Maruyama played Masanori, not much else. Tsuyako Okajima played Majyo Witch. She has acting credits in Japan back to 1921, but not much that I recognized. Henry Mitowa played the Zen monk. Outside of this, he appears as the subject of a 2016 documentary entitled Henry Mitowa Zen Tohone, aka Zen and Bones. It tells his actual life story beginning with his birth in Yokohama to a Japanese mother and American father, his internment in America's Japanese concentration camps during World War II, and his post-war life back in Japan as an actual monk in a Japanese monastery. Mayumi Umeda played Noriko, the babysitter, not much else. Jiro Shirai played Tadashi, also in Fukasaku's Message from Space. Kazuo Yoshida played an editor. Maybe that's the owner of the magazines when they say editor.
Could be.
They also have assistant directing credits on Fukasaku's Virus Day of Resurrection and Konichikawa Films' Actress and Princess from the Moon. Gentaro Mori played Yoshio, also in the first and third Street Fighter films, and Chiyoko Hardiman played Mama-san, presumably related in some way to the original story's author James Hardiman, but no other credits on IMDb. I think that's everything for The House Where Evil Dwells. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you can find all our socials at linktree/vintagevideopod. And if you really like the show, maybe you should join our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast for access to all our monthly 70s reviews and a hand in choosing next month's film. Patrons are currently choosing between Cooley High, Doc Savage the Man of Bronze, Jaws, Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, Love and Death, Nashville, Race with the Devil, Rollerball, and the Wilby Conspiracy for a 50th anniversary review next month. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Wrong is Right, which IMDb describes like so. A TV reporter finds himself in the middle of an Arab leader buying 2 portable nukes, terrorists, arms dealers, a reporter CIA spy killed, and a US president ordering a KILL, etc. What the hell does that mean, IMDb? We leave you now with the trailer for Wrong is Right.
It was a time when outer space was filled with incredible machines, whose eyes and ears recorded our most sensitive secrets.
2 atom bombs. Fake! I can smell it. There are no atom bombs. There never was. Will he blow up New York?
According to this report, yes, sir. Secrets that could and did change the fate of nations. And one man was witness to what we all would soon come to know.
How is the love life of a superstar?
Oh, it has its ups and downs.
A man who spoke with terrorists.
Makes killing a pleasure.
Presidents.
Well, don't say yes and don't say no. Don't say maybe. Say you'll call back, but don't. That's how you stay president.
And kings.
Tomorrow is the most important day of my life.
A man who must discover the truth before it's too late.
But if the people know the truth... Attack now, Mr. President. Hit him first. Good guys never shoot first. Why not? I will not go down in history as the president who started World War III.
It all could have happened in the recent past.
I am sick and tired of the gays and lesbians, the bar-hopping harlots, yapping about their unconstitutional, ungodly rights. It's time for the true Christians to come out of the closet.
For the present. Or even in the near future. But it didn't. It happened in that elusive time between now and later. That time when dark is light, when down is up, when foul is fair, when